Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation with Dr. Wade. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. Got a great segment today. We got Guido, who is a part of the esports at DAC music program. I don't know exactly all the titles, but we are going to dive into that. So we're going to talk a little bit about gaming, kind of what you do here at the campus. And I really have nothing planned, so I have no idea where this conversation will go, if anywhere.
No, that's good, because I'm in the same boat. I don't know what we're talking about. We're going to do
awesome.
it, and we're going to dive in.
We're going to start it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you do here. I don't know, like anything you think we should know.
Well, I kind of do double duty. And in the daytime, I'm at the college where I'm in charge of the esports program, which is a lot of competitive gaming, scholarships, all that. I work in the music program. I'm the co-director of the pep band. I'll be teaching some stuff in the fall. Help put together new programs. I buy all the music gear for the college. I work in recruiting. So that's everything from sitting at the lunchrooms to just developing programs to how to just get DAC's name out. I do a lot of, then I do community engagement. Same thing. It's all one big thing to me.
So for people who may not know, one, what is pep band? So let's start there.
It's just simply, it's a class, but you can take it as a community member. We learn songs and we perform. It's super simple. So we play at basketball games. We play at Festival of Trees. We just had a bar gig.
Awesome.
Also, our pep band's a little different. We have singers. We have rappers. We have a viola player, electric guitar, bass. We do, we'll do your tequilas. But we'll do, like I said, Katy Perry songs or any rap tunes. Also, it's kind of all over the place. Here's the most important part. If you're in pep band and you're a full-time student, scholarships.
Sweet. I love scholarships.
Well, we tapped our cap. So Dr. Nacko said, just go for it, as many as we can give. So pep band is not only fun, but for me, it's a chance to go, hey, you love music? Do this, and you're getting half your school paid for. So that's probably the best part of it, because, most of them are not going to be professional musicians. But it's more with the gaming, the same thing. I'm not trying to make professional gamers. It's like, you like gaming a lot, this can help you move forward in your career. And same thing with music or anything, man. I've been lucky that, I was thinking about this morning, I get to do stuff I love. And that's what I do. And I figured out how to monetize it, and it took me forever to do it. But it's such a gift. And so, you can use your passions to further yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, I sometimes, it's like, wow, I can't believe they pay me. I know that is not saying we do not want paid. I do not want that message.
We're gonna edit that out.
We're gonna edit that one out.
No,
but
I agree.
But the idea of that, you get to do, I was a practitioner for years, and I loved being a practitioner, and I loved working with families and communities and stuff. But as an educator, I really get back to the things that I fell in love with as a student, and so I really enjoy kind of sharing that passion, and that I get to come here every day, and I love DAC, and I love our campus, and I love a lot of the work that we're doing.
It sucks you in, doesn't it?
It does. I've been here, coming up on January will be 12 years, which, I think I was like, I don't want to talk about it.
Anything over 10, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like 12 years. Where did that time go? And it went a lot of places. So the other thing you had mentioned, so esports. So talk to us a little bit about what esports is. And I'll probably have lots of questions. I don't play video games, but yeah.
Well, there's two parts of esports. There is competitive gaming, which is simply you pick a game and you play against other teams or other students across the country. It's no different than basketball or golf or anything like that. We get scholarships for that. And we've actually, it's interesting, we've taken kids who weren't like gamers as far as competitive, and now we have nationally ranked kids.
Okay.
We had a 4th ranked kid in one game and a 7th ranked kid.
Nice.
And that's the beauty with esports. It's not everyone is born giant and huge or athletically gifted, but competition is so good for people. So it's open to anybody. Anyone can go do it. And we're learning we can take kids who've never done it, train them, teach them the games, and they get good enough to compete.
Okay.
So yeah, esports, that's the competitive part. And then there's the social part. So if you're a student at DAC, and as long as you're not failing your classes, you can come hang out in the lab before class, after class, and it's a community. Like it is a room you can go to and go, these are my people.
Yeah.
And it's on campus. You don't get that at community college. My kids come to class early, come hang out. They stay in between. They stay later, and it really keeps them in school. I think it's
a cool room.
Yeah.
Like every time I walk by like the big giant gaming television, I'm like, I really want that in my living room. Yeah. Not for games, just to watch TV on. So yeah, I think I truly do believe that there is a need for competition. I think it prepares you for a whole variety of things in life. And competition can sometimes be setting goals, becoming a better esports player. I like the idea that sometimes we think of gaming as kind of being
That's quite the opposite. It's yes, there are kids who not everyone's good at making friends, but when you're just playing a game together, you're buds.
okay.
There's this bond thing. It's the same thing with music. You play. I always say, if you do a gig, if I play with someone, even if it's a song, there's something you're like, okay, you're one of us now. So it's just that bonding thing.
So how long have you been into esports or gaming?
I've always played video games.
Okay.
The competitive side was something I kind of had to learn. Because when I came in, there was nothing. It was an empty room, a couple PlayStations, figure it out. But luckily, I visited a lot of places. I researched a bunch of it. So I had to up my game. It was the difference between like being an amateur musician and a professional musician. I've never been a professional gamer, but I know a lot about video games. It's nice. You just kind of figure it out as you go along. Really, the big thing was building the program. It's not. It's coordinating all the gear. It's starting something from nothing. Finding the kids and something you do. I always like go in your classes and bug people. You do have to do that stuff because they're not going to know about it. Yeah. It's the building of the programs. It's learning new games.
I remember early on, I think you and I think we came in about the same time, full time or whatever. And I know that the esports was kind of in the development phases. And one of my students talked me into, they were having a tournament in the theater.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need a faculty member. And I'm like, I don't know anything about video games. They're like, no, we just need a faculty member or an employee or someone there. And I was like, okay, cool. And I really thought it was going to be like 5 or 6 individuals, and the entire theater was full. And there were gaming stations at every table. There were people coming in that were playing. There were people that coming in that were watching. They had cake. They were like doing like a bake sale. And so it was really kind of a unique experience, especially for someone who I don't game. I think the last game I played was Duck Hunt. In the, we all know Duck Hunt for a lot of the younger generation. Yeah, like, it was not exciting stuff. And so it was just interesting. It was kind of a fun experience. I kind of felt a little bit out of my element.
Well, that's what I think older people don't understand how huge it really is. And it's only getting bigger. I mean, it's $1 billion industry. People watch people play video games. It still blows my mind.
Yeah.
But now I understand now. I can sit when I watch the kids and I'm just behind them, I'll laugh and go, oh, that's hilarious. Or like, why'd you do that? So it's something that I never would have thought I would have enjoyed watching video games, and now I do, because you just kind of understand the complexities and the things involved with it. It's hard to wrap my brain out. I guess at a certain age where I never thought, really? Like, you're gonna watch this dude speed run? And you're like, yeah. So
yeah, I think the generations that came before we're kind of catching up. Maybe not even catching up. I don't even know if we're catching up. But yes, I think that gaming has grown or morphed into this very, very huge business. Competitive business. Yes, the idea of people watching other people play video games. I know. So from a cultural standpoint, there have been shifts in entertainment. I know even with my daughter, when she watches YouTube, I'm like, you're watching other kids play with things. Like,
yeah.
And to me, it like blows my mind. It's like, why is that even? How is that even entertaining? Just standing there watching other people do things. And I mean, it's really kind of no different than, obviously going and watching a basketball game.
Yeah.
You're watching other people do something. I think that the accepted tradition is traditional sports. I think it's the same behavior. If
Right.
you would think about it from a behavioral standpoint,
Right.
is you're going to watch someone else compete against someone else.
Here's the difference, though, is that you can compete. You have every chance. Like, how many kids I know a pro basketball player, and they're like, 4'4", right? With esports, you actually, if you hit it, you have a chance. It's this weird like open door policy where a kid from nowhere can just actually do a whole bunch of things. Like I said, even here we have nationally ranked kids on games that they didn't really play seriously. A year later, they're competing nationally.
So how many kids are in the gaming program? I mean, how many students are in the gaming program?
We had 8 compete this semester, but then as far as in the lab, 50 plus. Even like college slow days, sometimes it's just packed. Like, it's kind of end of the semester. We still had a bunch of kids in there. So, again, it's just there's so many kids involved on a daily basis. So it's even hard to count sometimes, because there's some of the kids are just there to kind of play. And again, the social part. And then eventually they start seeing other kids compete and like, I'm better than him. And then they jump in. So it's kind of an all-encompassing, about 50, 60.
So what, as a person who, like I said, once again, I have no ability to kind of speak to this because I don't play video games. I do know that there are critics out there in regards to young people and the time they spend behind screens. And what that does to the brain, that's doing kind of to our social structure. And I always think about, like, imagine if a young person was like, I'm gonna play Monopoly for the next 9 hours. We would be like, that would be kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, but if they were playing Monopoly with their friends.
Yeah, but and I think too is the idea of like productivity, and maybe we have to define productivity differently. But
here's something funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I read this article about when the printing press came out, right? There was actually worries. Hey, they might read too much. They might spend all their time reading.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, you know what? If they start reading all the time, they're not going to be able to memorize stuff. So it's just, it's all about your kid, man. If your kid is not showering and doesn't talk and his grades are slipping, then video games are bad for him and they should probably not do as much. If your kid is social and he's got good grades and is a generally happy kid, then it doesn't, that's good then. Because this with them, it's not. A lot of them aren't just playing alone. They're playing with they're talking. Like you get on your Discord, and you're talking to your friends. So there is a social aspect. So again, it's like anything else, man. It's,
Yeah, and I think too is yes, obviously parental involvement.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, parents would be and caregivers would be on that.
Well, you can turn it off. You can take it away. You can unplug the
And
internet.
I all true statements, except that that doesn't always necessarily, that may not always necessarily occur. I mean, I know even in my classroom, I have students playing video games on their phone.
Right.
And I'm like walking around lecturing. I'm like, are you literally playing a game right now?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And so I'm like, put it away. And then I walk over here and then I come back and they're playing it again. And so, yes, in a perfect world, gaming would stay in the gaming time. Learning would stay in the learning time.
Yeah, but it's no different if you're like, I'm just looking at Instagram or.
Which is also, once again, like I
screens.
think about the idea of like when I say, and that's the reason I put it in the frames of screens, not necessarily gaming.
Right.
Because we as a society spend way too much, in my opinion, too much time behind a screen.
Well, it's passive. I mean, like, if you're just like, I don't know, that if you can do this, then you're probably not getting anything out.
Yeah, you're probably not getting anything out of it. But I think too is that it's the I was listened to a podcast not too long ago, and they were talking about things like TikTok, and like, dude, you can like turn it on, you could be in there 4 hours before you even know it, and that's even with people who do have self-control.
Yeah.
like I mean,
Well, and it's designed to make you do that.
yeah, and it's designed, and I do know that video games have some degree of behavioral component to keep you engaged, so that you don't get bored.
Yeah.
And so I think too is there's definitely conversations around gaming. I think that is it how we define productivity? Like, what is healthy doses of screens? What are unhealthy doses of screens?
Right.
And then, like, I always think of like, when I was a kid, my mom would always try to like put like parental controls on things. And
Oh, yeah.
it's like, we knew how to jailbreak them, or like they didn't know.
Right.
And it's like, they did the best they could. And so, yeah, so it's very interesting. I think the popularity of the sport, and this is not, and like I said, I don't necessarily think of this as that much different than traditional sports, because there are plenty of people who spend hours and hours and hours and loads of money playing sports.
Pool.
Pool
Best
is
example.
yeah.
I mean, I spent hours, just hours. No one ever said anything.
Yeah.
You're playing pool.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, I noticed. So Eleanor plays softball, which she doesn't really like, and she's not really a sports. She's not really a sports kid, and that's. I really like baseball, softball. Basketball's fine. I mean, I'll go and watch a basketball game, but I really enjoy softball and baseball. And when we first started, we started in the spring, so we did like spring, summer, and. I'm always like, okay, that's what I did when I was a kid. Like into school, you started baseball, you played it, till about late July. There was a tournament and it was over.
right.
And now it's like, no, spring rolls into summer, summer rolls into fall, fall rolls into winter, winter rolls back in. And then there are kids playing year round,
That's so
conditioning, training. And so it's like, to me, it's not much different. Because you're still putting a portion of your time into a game, and
Right.
whether it's electronic or physical games or games, and we could argue, one has a physical component and we could argue that in a different thing. But the idea is that we are a society that likes games.
Yeah.
We play a lot of games, and we have games for our games.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's, I guess the question in there is like, well, how do you really help people maybe that don't really understand the world of gaming? Because I do not understand the world of gaming. Where do you think the confusion comes in?
Again, I think it's just they see it as a kid playing by themselves in a room.
Yeah.
That's what I always see it. And the reality is these kids are hooked up to other kids with their headsets and talking and like cracking jokes. So, if they would just see it as, again, a bunch of kids hanging around a pool table talking. Cool, man. That's what it is. I've learned that how to get my program going was I'm in the lab and going, who wants to play this game? Cool. All right, let's play. And some kid walks in, what are you guys playing? I want to play. Because we're all in there. Mm-hmm. They're just doing that with headsets and stuff. But also, like I said, there are, that's what I love about esports with our program. I'm able to take that and go, let's hang out together And when you're in person, everyone goes, "Oh, this is way better." So yes, there's always trappings of someone playing a single game and being on their own, but there's trappings on everything. In general, I just think people don't see it as the social thing that it is.
I think I think critics would say, yeah, I see certain social aspects.
Right.
I see, obviously talking to people on the phone, playing a game with, someone either, next to you or, in a different part of the country or a different part of the world.
Yeah.
And I definitely understand that, social aspect.
Oh, well, there's the people say that it encourages violence. But again, that's on every medium. Back to the printing press, people thought that they would read stuff and go, "Oh, I'm going to read this thing," and then do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the research is there's a lot of research out that, I mean, I know that was even going back to when I was a kid, even as a young person. Yeah, like they were like, music, certain music's cause. And what I think most research is kind of, at least the research that I've read, is that individuals who may have a tendency to be aggressive tend to like aggressive things.
Right.
But people who are not aggressive also tend to like aggressive things, but they're not necessarily.
Well, a heavy metal song is not going to change your personality into you something horrible. You didn't walk in a room, hear Ozzy Osbourne, and go, "Oh my God," and then change your life in that way. So
and I think we're is dividing the people who are maybe prone to certain things, enjoy certain things, or drawn to certain things, and then people who are not necessarily prone to it can also be drawn to the same thing without. I don't know if you've been following the story at Purdue. The Purdue University, there was roommates were playing a video game, and supposedly, I mean, I don't know what truth to this. I don't know the grave details, but something happened in the game that ended up in an altercation, and it did not turn out well for one individual. It did not turn well, and okay, but once again, I've seen professional basketball players fight.
I mean, you ever been to a heavy card game?
Yeah.
Where someone thinks so
I think we can see it. I think we can see it in all other different arenas. The things that you see, prior to esports, I always used to make the joke, I have family members that are religious sports fans. And I mean, they spend a large portion of their life learning stats and fantasy football, and I mean they and so it's like, okay, well, what is the difference between you doing that and doing this? And I think it's the way we think about it socially is watching sports is something that has been done forever. So it's not a different behavior, and I think that's the reason I try to keep an open mind about it. Is it's not a different behavior, it's just a different media. It's a different thing that's it's getting your attention.
The second you start replacing it with it's just like fantasy football. Are you really playing? But you love it. I mean, I am last place in my league, but whatever. It's just if you could just open them up to go, it's this word, not that word. Oh, well, I know that word.
Yeah, instead of watching people run up and down a basketball court, you're watching people.
Yeah.
I don't even know the name of the game. I was like searching for one, and I'm like, Pac-Man. I don't know. People still sit around and watch other people play Pac-Man.
They do still have tournaments.
Yeah, but I definitely think that, the idea that young people are going to hold on one second. That young people are going to. So I'm 41. I'll be 42 in February, which I'm not quite ready for. But as I get older, I try to understand things from a different lens. And I remember being a young person. I'm sure I was. I think when I look back on myself as a young person, I was so sophisticated. I probably was not. I probably was not sophisticated at all. But I always felt like people didn't get it, and I've come to an understanding that I may not get certain things. I may not get it. But at the same time, I may not necessarily, maybe I'm not supposed to get it. Maybe I'm supposed to try to get it.
You know,
Because we're from different worlds. Like, you have Call of Duty and I had Pac-Man. Like, those are entirely different modes of entertainment.
It's like, when parents don't like their kids' music, yeah, good. That's why they like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I always used to like that. It's like, well, it's not like my music. It's like, I was like, at one point, like, Elvis couldn't be on television.
Yeah.
It's like, so, those parents thought that was, awful.
They're not making it for you, Dad.
Yeah, they're not making it for you, Dad. They're making it for me. Is that from a movie?
No, I just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just watched the new Elvis movie, which was quite interesting.
I did not like it.
You didn't?
I'm a big Elvis fan.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed what the director and the actors were trying to accomplish.
The movie was cool. I just didn't like the music. There's so many, I love the Elvis renditions of stuff, and with even when they were in time periods, they would, there was like music for the time period I wanted to hear. So I was just being a snob. But
okay.
It was all produced well. It's just kind of like, well, I wanted to hear the Elvis version.
Why is the movie not the way I want it?
Yeah. Totally.
Why didn't the director write me and ask for my input?
I know, they should be doing these things.
I'm giving you a negative review on Rotten
That was just
Tomatoes.
me being an old man. That's me being an old guy going like, wait a minute, that's not how that's supposed to sound.
Why are you trying to make Elvis relevant today?
It's like they're in a jazz club and they're playing a hip hop tune. I'm like, wait a minute, why don't you listen to so being an old man.
Yeah, and yes, I think that there is definitely and I do remind myself that maybe I'm not supposed to fully get it. Like, I do not get why my 7-year-old likes to watch people paint squishamallows. Like, I don't get it. And I'm trying to stay open-minded about it, but it's really hard. Like, it makes no sense to me.
Oh, well,
and then I have to think, it's like, would I be different if I was 7 today? And I think that's sometimes how we think about, like, even if it was around, I wouldn't do it. It's like, really? Like,
yeah.
I think you would. Like, if you had a choice between playing outside with sticks and playing Call of Duty, I'm pretty sure you would pick the video game.
I literally say this to my son on an almost daily basis. I just I just can't imagine giving this computer to myself at 13 and just going like, there's all the stuff you can do. It just would have blown my head away. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. So I understand that, yes, this is something really hard to deal with as an adult, much as a kid.
Yeah, I know I saw a speaker one time. They were talking about technology and how technology is kind of the divider between generations and, different forms, different media,
lifestyles.
And one of the things that I don't remember a lot of what the speaker said. I wasn't taking notes. But the one thing that he did say that stood out to me was he said, you got to remember, it's only new to you. Yeah. Or it's only, it's only, how do you say it? I think he said it's only new to you because you remember something before it.
Right.
Like, if you've never not known anything else, it's not new. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, YouTube's a new thing. Well, not if you were born after YouTube was created.
Right.
And I always think about, I think it was at Aristotle or something, was like worried about like people learning to write.
Yeah.
He's like, they're going to start writing. I mean, I don't know which philosopher, and that might even be a made up, fabricated story for all I know.
The printing press, like, wait, it's like, whoa, it's new knowledge. Whoa, you can't handle it. Can't handle it.
They're going to want to write their own articles.
Totally.
And I think that's one of the interesting things about, but going back to my earlier, I'll kind of like circle back around is, and I know I talk with my students sometimes, like, one of the hard things about being an educator is trying to remember that you aren't learning the same way I learned.
Right.
And the way I learn and what I did, 20 years ago in college is the way you should be learning today. And trying to figure out should my framework change or should your framework change? Is it more likely that I have the ability to kind of adapt to your, particular, generational things, or that you're going to adapt to mine? And I think,
Right.
kind of as a college, I kind of think about that. If young people are really into gaming and into doing a lot, why would we not incorporate that? And because I would much rather have them doing it here where we can positively influence them
Right.
than doing it where we don't have that positive influence.
Well, and you can use the stuff to get, for curriculum. Like I said, I brought the Oculus 3D headset things over to the art students and let them draw stuff in three-dimensional space.
Sweet.
They could be in there. I mean, the stuff they came up with the first day was just like, and what's nice was I got to put the headset on and walk in the picture and go, whoa. They're using it for business class because virtual reality, augmented reality is the way that advertising is going. It's just the way society is going. And so they're using that to go, hey, learn these things. What do you think? How can you fix this? How would you use this? So, I love incorporating the technology in the curriculum. It's fun because that's where it's going and the hands-on, and kids love it.
Yeah.
They really gets them hooked into the class.
Yeah, I know. I saw I don't know if it was your presentation or you were part of a presentation.
Oh, yeah.
And I was telling some of my students, I'm like, eventually, because I teach sociology and I teach social behavior, and
Right.
I was like, imagine, from a history standpoint, trying to. One of my students wrote in their paper, like, it's hard being the generation that doesn't remember September 11th, and they talk about it. And
Yeah.
I was there. I mean, I was in that generation, and it was a very unique experience that, in a way, kind of shifted. But I'm like, imagine if you could take people to historical times,
Yeah.
and literally like put you in. Like, we're going to put you downtown September 11th, and this experience, you will learn it. You will learn from it. You will see it. You'll imagine what it was like versus just a picture in a book.
Yep.
And to me, I think you were talking about like going to like different parts of the world and experiencing, like as an archaeologist or
My favorite
whatever.
was Coliseum. So like there's one where you stand in the middle of it. You can go wherever you want, but you're standing next to this stuff. And so that was probably the biggest thing was that I got from it was like, whoa, wow, that's huge. To be able to do that, I mean, it's just still crazy. But why? I mean, I'm a student here too. So like, as I think of every class I'm in, I think of as like, how can I, tweak this stuff? And I'm like, that seems like a good day of class. Hey, this is what we're doing today. You'd be like, wait, what? Cool. And you're gonna walk. I mean, that to be immersed.
Yeah, I kind of think about like from a music standpoint, like, virtual reality, like put you on stage with the Rolling Stones.
They're doing that.
Like that to me, it's like, dude, I am playing next to Keith Richards.
There's a show, Portlandia. They did a episode where a virtual experience with big headset, but they're actually doing that now. You can sit in the front row and look around. They don't have it to where you can move around yet, but you could go to the show and just put your headset on and you're there and you can look around.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to go to Woodstock, virtual reality Woodstock.
Oh, yeah.
Like just to.
Well, think about shows moving forward. You can do that because they'll have the video technology and everything on video to make that happen. So, our kids will. That's going to be the norm.
Do you worry? I worry about everything, and I don't want to come across like the printing press guy. But I also think that that there is kind of a trick being done. We are tricking your brain, and I think too is the way I kind of think about it, and you obviously know more about virtual reality than I do. That your body responds. Cassie, so my wife, she went bungee jumping virtual reality, and they were monitoring her heart rate, and she had physiological responses like that of actually, and she didn't move.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, it's like there's a new show called Limitless with
One of the
Thor or whatever that guy.
It's his brother.
Oh, is it?
His brothers all look like him, and
Oh, is it actually? It's not. It's not. What?
yeah, it's Thor's brother. I think is
It's
the
not his actual. Oh, okay. Anyways, but I was watching like half an episode, and they're trying to get him to like walk across like this plank or something,
Right.
and they just hook him up to like virtual reality on like the ground, and his respiratory and his heart rate and all those things are responding because to his brain,
yeah.
if
It's real. So if
It is real.
You're
And
having
so-
a physical reaction. Your body is going, whoa, strong reaction.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I went to a tour of this company that has like military grade flight simulators.
Mm-hmm.
I get in the helicopter one, right? He puts me in a spin, and I'm like this, and he's looks over. He's like, we're not really moving around. I'm like, my body doesn't know we're not moving. So it's crazy. It actually you can get that physical. Thing. So your body, like starts craving that. You can get a rush from just putting this thing on.
And I kind of worry because I know we do know, like I said, I know one of the things I worry about is that what happens when virtual reality becomes better than reality. And to me, so for example, we go back to kind of like talking on the phone or talking gaming, and we have seen a sharp change in the way people socialize since the introduction of smartphones, where people believe they are interacting because they're in their rooms talking with people, and they believe that is socializing. Now, from a psychological standpoint and social standpoint, it's like, well, you're socializing and interacting with your device, not necessarily with other people. And I sometimes worry that if you can experience everything you would want to experience, or at least versions of it, do you worry that kind of us as an organism is like, why should I go out and experience this when I can just put on a headset?
I'll tell you a story about that. Once I was teaching for a while, just at lessons, and then that game Guitar Hero came out.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, all my kids weren't practicing. They were playing that game because I bought it myself. It makes you feel like you're playing guitar.
Yeah.
So you get that feeling. There's a crowd there, and you're rocking, and you're hitting a button, and it's making noise. Yeah. And so that, yes, there is absolutely that danger.
Yeah.
It's, and I just remember being so pissed, but I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah. But, you could.
Yeah, I know I was listening to a podcast, and one of the speakers was talking about the fact that, our technology has moved so fast and so quick that our brains have not quite caught up with the changes. And so far in the race, we're not doing well. We're not because it is
there's money in it.
There's lots of money, but there's also that that drive to it calls your name. And to me, one of the things like I'm able to I don't really cry at movies. I don't know if you're a movie crier.
I cry at those like videos of like, hey, the guy's colorblind. He gets the colorblind glasses and sees their kid. No, it gets me every time.
Yeah, it's like the Folgers commercial. I don't know. I don't cry at movies, and the reason I don't cry at movies is I know it's not real.
Right.
Like to me, I'll tell my wife and everything. She'll start around like, they're not dead in real life. Like Brad Pitt's fine. Like to me, it's like that's not actually Elvis.
Right.
Like, and so I like having that divider between me and my reality and what I am experiencing at this is, and I do worry that where's the stopping point? Like, where's like, all right, it's gotten real enough. And like some of the things I worry about is like virtual reality and violent gaming. Like that's what I kind of, because there is a physiological response, and it's like you're in this very, very violent thing, and there is no, I'm going to tap on the desk, this physical separation between you and what you're experiencing.
I just don't see us getting to a point where it's like Star Trek holodeck. Like I think visually it'll get better. I can't see just me being able to throw his coffee in your face and you're like, oh, I can feel it. I don't think it's possible.
I would love to say that, but I also remember watching Total Recall as a kid and not thinking that video conferencing was going to be possible or individual space travel. Like,
wow.
To me, I was like, oh, they're talking on an individual space travel, and that we might be able to someday just go to the moon or go to the And right now there's private space. I mean, like everything.
I
I always think that like movies, like movies are like foreshadowing like what is coming.
Oh yeah, but I bought into that movie. I was like, that all made sense to me.
And to me, I was like, I don't know. Yeah. And like I said, maybe I'm the get off my lawn kind of
I am the classic
kind of
optimist.
person, but I was like, I think there has to be, and I do worry, and I would even make the argument that the ultimate, what is next? Let's say we get the visual thing down. Well, the visual is only as good as the other sensations, and how do
Yeah.
we incorporate the other sensations, and how do you trick the mind?
Yeah.
And to me, it's how do you trick the mind? And that is where I am like, wow, like if this keeps us from keep staying away from one another,
Yeah.
why do I need to go on vacation now when I can just throw this headset on and I'm in a relaxive state versus actually going out and engaging in the world? And I think that to me is
I know as someone who spends a lot of time on games, I can't picture a world where I'm going to put a headset on and do a virtual beach, then go to a beach and sit. I don't know, man.
And I would say too, because you do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And going back to, it's only new to you.
Right.
Like if that's just the, once again, kind of like going back to Total Recall. Like, do you want to go on vacation and not go on vacation? We're just going to implant. And like to me, and I know that like I probably shouldn't be using Total Recall as like my point of reference, but
Hey, man, it's a great flavor.
but it's like, it's like that it's worrisome to me because of that. I've done one VR, and that was, I would say, years ago. And I think it was like for my phone. Like I was
Right.
doing like a game on my phone. And I remember like I just like I had to remind and I'm like, that was 10 years or 5 years ago. What does it look like now? And then I watched, my wife, bungee jump, and I'm like she's literally responding,
Yeah.
like physiologically to the environment that she's not actually in.
Yeah.
And is there reasons to be concerned with how you use it?
Well,
Now-
that's actually this. Not to go down a giant rabbit hole. That's the scariest thing to me is how it is being used to manipulate people and how it's gonna be used.
Yeah.
Really, we've seen social media convince people. If you ever watched, it was like this documentary. Well, it was like a fake video, but the production was so good. I remember thinking like, well, I'm gonna look up and see what's going on. But if this is not real, that scares the hell out of me because it was done so well. Mm-hmm. And so that's the scary part. Is just the social media, all that stuff being used to just make people believe stuff that's like just so far out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, what,
Well, it used to be don't believe everything you read.
Yeah.
You got to see it. Well, now you see it, and it's so that to me is yes how it can be used. With every, the way I I always kind of think of things, and it doesn't matter. What are the positive social things? Like what can be done well with this technology, but where can this technology also go really, really wrong? Yeah. I was talking with, I think after your presentation, like imagine if you could, put, someone in, like a nursing student or medical student inside the heart.
Yeah.
Like from a learning standpoint, that is good. Working with people with anxiety and exposure. Mm-hmm. I mean, lots of therapeutic techniques can be used with VR, and a lot of one of the things I told my students, imagine like if you're going to be a therapist and I'm teaching you about conflict resolution or de-escalation.
Yeah.
And instead of telling you the steps of de-escalation, I'm going to put you in a hostile environment with a client or someone you're working with and see how you do with de-escalating that person because it's real.
They're doing that for like the police training too. Same thing. And it's just.
Yeah, and I see that, and I see those as extremely beneficial from training. But then I also going back to how do I manipulate you for capital gain?
Well, it's Mr. Rogers hated TV. That's why he made his show. True story. He hated TV, and he was like, "This is horrible, but I'm going to do." I'm like, "But I'm going to figure some way to make this,
Make it better.
make it good." So I think again, it goes back to with the books. Every time something comes out, TV came out. Oh my God, you can't watch. It's we're people, man. We're going to find ways to.
Should it be more regulated? Do you think that there should be more oversight in the? Because like TV's regulated.
Yeah.
There's certain. I always find it interesting when I buy shows, because like the TV version that's to the general public and the actual version, they don't always look the same. And it's like, ooh, that's what happens when you take out the regulations versus when the regulations are in. Do you worry about the...
Not in gaming, because everything is pretty rated. You can, if you want to look at a game and see what it's about, you hit a button and go, and you can decide for your kid. You can set, on all gaming, there's those parental things, actually, you can lock those down. You have to actually get a code. So they're way better than our days of we can,
We just had to get someone to buy it for us.
Or just find it somewhere or whatever, or get, or change a, it's a lot harder these days.
Sir, will you go in and buy this album for me? Because I'm not old enough to buy the album.
Totally.
I was telling one of my students, I was like, I remember standing outside of the FYI store, waiting on someone that was 17 to like ask them if they'd be willing to go in and buy me an album, CD at that time. I don't think they were still selling records, but it was cassettes moving into CDs. And I said a couple of times, like, the teenagers would just like buy the album or just steal my money. Like, because, it's like, I'll try again next week.
That's how I tried to get liquor when I was younger.
Yeah, you stand outside the liquor store.
Hey, man, I'll get your six pack. And
they give you one and they take the 5. Like, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
No, actually, surprisingly, most people, I grew up in the South Side, so it's a little different. If they were going to bother with it,
Yeah. Well, and I also think too is there's I think we do have much more oversight in the physical world with young people. I think we have less oversight in the digital world.
Well, that's the thing. How do you regulate? It's like you can regulate games, but Google. I mean, that your kid can see whatever they want to see whenever they want to see it for the most part.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah, and I think going back to, and I think one of the when we could go back to older our time as young people, and parents didn't want to have to regulate music. They wanted the system to regulate the music because it takes a lot of work to sit down and listen to the album, watch the movie.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that was more political than actually like something that was like, hey, this is good for the... I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes I think of well, going back to Elvis.
Yeah.
And so, the kids that were listening to Elvis, their parents were appalled.
Right.
So, but the kids that were listening to Elvis were upset that their kids were listening to, AC/DC or, bands. Those bands were upset because they were listening. Their kids were listening to music that had explicit language in it. I think too, it's just like there's a difference in regards to that. But I also know, like one of the things I've done, which takes a lot of time, is so it's kind of like people always look at me oddly. We had one TV in our house, like just one, in the living room, shared space, and my daughter wants to watch YouTube. It used to be I'd let her watch on like the iPad. Now like I want it on the television. I want to hear what's on there.
Yeah.
And then I need to make decisions about whether or not I think that's appropriate for you to listen to, appropriate for you to watch, especially in regards to your age.
See, that's the answer.
And that is, but I think too is that takes a lot of time because, and I think that is kind of misleading, especially when we get into like technology and the implications of technology and how that impacts people. Going back to your 13-year-old son, I'm going to give you this device to give you every piece of information in the entire world, and I want you to use it responsibly. Sure, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Dad, I think I'm going to take this thing where I can see anything I've ever wanted to see, read, view, watch, and I'm going to make sure that I do it responsibly and I don't do anything that would embarrass you or the community.
I can't even get my kid to turn off the light when he leaves the room.
Yeah, it's like they're going to use the phone responsibly. And so I think, yeah, in a perfect world, yes, caregivers, parents would be more in tune with what's going on, but that takes a lot of time.
I don't think you can regulate it. I think it's out
Yeah.
there, man. I mean, you could, but I don't think it would be a world where your average American would tolerate.
Yeah, I know there's
You know?
I know there's been a push, like since social media moved more to like subscription based,
Right.
where like if you want to be on Facebook, you have to pay a subscription because
Yeah.
then it's like anything else. You are paying for a product, and that product is not being used to manipulate you,
Right.
because you're paying for it. And so the idea of like, things like video games, like you have to buy them.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you have to buy them.
Not all of them.
Oh, great.
Surprising, yeah.
Awesome. So I'm wrong about something else. But generally
Some
the
games
high
make,
quality games.
well,
that
some
people would
games
wanna-
make their money on like you can play the game totally for free, but if you want to look this way,
Yeah.
that's how they get it.
Yeah. But there's still something that you have to pay for. And so young people still need to get money from somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I think that did help like regulate certain music when I was growing up, because if I didn't have enough money to buy it, I couldn't access it. The radio wasn't playing it, and you weren't going to give me the money for it.
Right.
And then if you found it,
Yeah.
you were going to throw it away. And so I think money does play a factor in kind of creating some of those bumper rails to.
Well, and the device itself.
Yeah.
You could take away your kid's phone or take their computers. It's,
Yeah, just shut down the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Change the
a
password.
friend that used to do that with where they had theirs set up, where at a certain time it would just shut Wi-Fi off, and then they would turn off their kids' cell phones, and they had to do a series of behaviors each day to earn the passcode for the next day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty ingenious, but that takes a lot of time as well, and resources to be able to have those
Yeah.
types of technologies. And so, yeah, I think too is, yeah, I don't think that there is a solution, like a perfect solution. I think that we have to catch up. Our brains have to catch up with the world. And I think for, people my age, maybe people that are a little bit older, is trying to be open-minded. I haven't come to a concrete finding yet. I'm trying to, understand it. And to me, that's the hard part, is like, I'm trying to understand why this is so important to you.
Right.
And what quality of life does it bring for you? What enjoyment does it bring? Does it enrich your life? And to what degree is this, is this going to be awesome for humanity? And what is the drawbacks? Because I think we have to look at technology that way, that there's going to be lots and lots of advantages,
Right.
but there will also be drawbacks. And how do we maximize on the advantages and minimize, the drawbacks and the negative implications?
I'm really, judging them on how the time spent, especially with the gaming stuff. Like, no one ever gave me crap for sitting in my room practicing guitar for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
Ever.
And I think that goes back to defining things. Like
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the way you define it, is that's art.
Yeah.
Or this, playing basketball all day is physically, it's good for your physical being.
Right.
So I think it comes back to defining and how time is spent.
Yeah.
And, for example, I mean, if you're, you go to work, you do your work, you get your job done, and you want to spend the next 9 hours of your day, that's your time.
Yeah.
It's your time. So who should tell you what to do at your time? I think the problem runs into is, if you're at work playing video games on your phone instead of doing work,
Yeah.
how do you manage, that? And I think nice thing is that you mentioned early on in the podcast is like, if your grades are good, you're attending class,
Yeah.
you're doing there's these things you have to do to access the privilege. And I
Yeah.
think that is definitely a good way to, because it is your time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it is your time. And what yes, I mean, I do it with music. I'll sit and listen to music for hours on end, but I'm listening to art. And so it's like, well,
Oh, if someone's painting in virtual reality, it's no different.
yeah,
man.
once again, I think, like I said, it comes down to how you define and that things are work. No, I don't think anyone's going to be like, there's Guido trying to become an amazing musician,
Yeah.
because that would be something that would be maybe admired inside of society. It's like, ooh, we don't have it. I mean, well, we have a shortage of musicians. I don't know. But
It's happening, there's a shortage, but anyway.
That kid over there, that kid's
that's a
spending,
whole rabbit hole.
That young person spending all day reading those books.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
Well, think about it. Remember, like, it was a trope in the '60s, like, oh, you can't stay inside or read all day. That was like a thing.
yes, it was.
know?
Yes, go outside and play.
And then, like, at my age, I read a ton. Like, that's great. So I mean, whatever, man.
Yeah. It kind of depends on go outside and play versus just sit inside and read all day.
Well, it's just you got the only answer that truly works is spend more time with your kids.
Yeah.
Just that's the only thing that is like like regulation. Well, how do you do that? Blah blah blah. The argument is just no. Spend more time with them and have oversight. And if they're doing poorly, fix it. Yeah. Work with them.
Yeah, or do it with them. If you're going to understand something, you need to do it with them. And like,
You think so?
I think if you're truly going to understand it, like where the how it enriches. I remember I was talking with someone one time. I was like, well, it's at a certain age, kids tend to gravitate away from their parents or their caregivers.
Yeah.
And, it's like, well, how do you offset that? Because that's really a time that you want to have
Right.
a positive influence on your children or the people
Right.
that are in your family. And maybe the only way to get to spend that quality time with them is to engage in some of the things that they find enjoyable.
Yeah.
Versus, come do this with me. And it's
Right.
like, and I remember as a young person, it was like pulling teeth. My mom and my stepdad were like, come and, I'm like, oh my God, do I seriously have to hang out with you again? Why can't I just sit in here and listen to my record? Versus my dad or my mom, all right, what are you listening to?
Right.
Do you care if I sit and listen to it with you?
Right.
And I mean, I'm not saying that that's a perfect system, but I think that I do that with my kid. It's like this is the worst show in the history of shows, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to engage with you in it
Right.
because I want you to include me in things so that I can monitor it.
Right.
And I do think that there needs to be monitoring. And like going back to my original premise is, you can't get your kid to turn off the light.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get your kid to be like, nope, that's not, I'm not old enough to view that yet. So I'm going to not go there.
Yeah.
And to me, that is really, what is it? The not my kid syndrome.
Yeah.
My kid would never do that. Oh, I'm pretty sure they would. You just don't know about it because you don't want to deal with the anxiety of knowing about it. I know. Like I have I'm not quite ready for I just want Eleanor to stay like 7 forever. Like, but like I worry about, her technology and just like, because I fall further and further behind with technology, like every, I don't even want to upgrade my phone because I'm afraid eventually we're going to get to a phone that I don't understand. I'm like, can I just keep this phone forever? I promise I won't break it.
You're going to be like the old guy with the flip phone.
Dude, remember the Nokia phones?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you could not break that
The
thing.
brick things? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this thing breaks sitting on the table. So lots of fun conversations. We could spend hours going down that rabbit hole. How are your students doing? The students that are engaged in this program, what's their completion rates like? Are they passing their class? Are they graduating? Do you have positive indicators?
I don't have the stats, but I mean, that's the hard part at college. You're gonna lose some, but for the most part, we keep them. And it's like even the music stuff, my pep band. I think I might have lost one kid this semester out of 30, and that's pretty good. We usually lose like 60%, around 50%. No, and again, that's the value. I think that's the overall value our programs have, more so than having a band that sounds really good or having a ranked player. It's this keeps in here. Think about those days you're like, I don't know if I want to go in. Oh, you know what? But I'm going to go play that, or so and so's, or that day you have that hour between class that might be, I'm going home. No, I'm going to go to the lab. Yeah. I'm going to go in the creative lab and work on tunes with people. So yeah, I think that's the true value of these programs.
And I see that. It's one of the things that I how do we get them here? How do we get them engaged? Because I mean, the research is very clear. If students and learners are engaged in things that are going on at the school,
Yep.
engaged with people that work at the school, they're going to do better.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, well, yes, I had read somewhere like someone had recorded a song or an album, or was there someone like recording something?
Yeah, we're always doing stuff.
Yeah,
Projects
like
or-
I'm like, oh, cool. So if you're an artist or you're a musician,
Yeah.
you want to put some tracks down, like
Yeah, we're starting a record label next semester.
sweet.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be, and we're actually working with the Danville Library Foundation about also doing literary stuff too. But just really that creative vibe of like, what are you working on? Wait, or someone, it really is the best part. It's, wait a minute, what are they doing? Yeah, they're working on their own tune. Wait, we can do that here? Oh, yeah, you want to do that? Come with me.
Yeah.
And if, that's the beauty. Or I had another student the other day, he's one of my pep band kids. He said he wants to be a professional musician. And I was like, okay, there's a conversation then. And then, I love having that avenue of like, oh, that's what I know about this. I can totally help you.
Well, I mean, I know that for like someone like me who doesn't really know how to do technology. So I've utilized the things that you guys have down here, with the podcast and with my, mental health events, and all of those things are very engaging for me as a faculty member. And I rarely ever see that lab without people in it.
Yeah. And that's
Unless it's locked. And sometimes even when no one's down here, they're in there playing.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like you are on campus, and it is a draw for young people. But I am very interested in, from like semester to semester, are you retaining these kids? Are you
yeah,
retaining these students? They coming back each semester? Are they registering for classes?
Yeah, so even like that's the best part. If teachers usually get a hold of me if they know a kid's in my program, because our grades, unless they're competing, and also the grades don't matter the semester before. So I'm about full hours, things like that. Some of my kids are part time and competing. Teachers will let me know if they're flunking, and I will. Hey man, you're out of the lab until you let me know that this is rocking. That helps. Just someone accountable. And like I said, it gives them a reason to stay besides school.
And I would also even make an argument that helps maybe, young people who maybe don't have the structure to like, hey, how do we set priorities? So yes, you enjoy gaming, you enjoy playing, we enjoy having you here, but you're also a student. And I think there's always been a weird balance between student athletes. Like you are a student, learning is...
I'm the worst coach and band director because honestly, if my band didn't sound that great and my kids lost every game, but they all graduated, win. Like, and that's what it's about. I understand that. Or even if it's just, hey, no, you're gonna go to part time, but you're gonna continue your thing. Or even if it's just, hey, school's not for me. Cool, I'll help. That's what's most important. The other stuff is just secondary.
Yeah, like balancing multiple obligations and balancing preferred activities over non-preferred activities.
Yeah.
Like, yes, would I rather play the video game than read this literary book? Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
so to me, I think having that, you or other staff members, like, hey, I'm in correspondence, and I think students do better there too. Is when multiple people are communicating back and forth about how the student's doing, how they're doing in their program, how they're doing in their classes, and it's not only am I obviously helping you with building skills and competitiveness, or with records, or with band, but I'm also invested in your academic success.
absolutely.
Not just you having somewhere cool to hang out, but I want you to do well, and I want you to graduate, and I want you to go on and have and so helping maybe even like set out those, ways to manage time and ways to set priorities. Because who could not play a game forever?
Yeah.
I always like to ask myself, like, what's the longest you've ever played a game? And I've had like students like 18 hours. Like, you played a game for 18 hours? Like, that is like craziness. Like, well, it was a really good game. Well, I guess so. So is there anything that you would like to kind of plug about what you guys got coming up? This semester is coming spring. Is there anything?
We have our weekly Smash tournaments on Mondays. That's probably the big stuff. We are hosting the ISHA regionals in April. And that's about it. Really just We are going to do, again, the record label, community members can do that. We're doing a community esports team too. So I'll be reaching out to people who are just good and go, hey, because what happens is if I get good players, it brings that level up of that game. And since it's, there are non-college competitions that we can do with just community members. So my goal is to find people who are really, really good and go the same thing. Hey, why don't you learn how to be part of a team, how to learn a coach, or whatever. So
Yeah, and I think too, maybe we didn't talk enough about that, the benefit of being part of a team, whether that's on a basketball team, baseball team, softball team, esport team. You are there on a team working collaboratively with other people.
Learn when to be a leader, when to follow.
Yeah.
Learn those are both the skills you need to do. Sometimes it's, I know where we're going, follow me. Sometimes it's like, well, they want to go that way, so I'm going to.
Or even things like, I really want to play in the tournament, but you're the best player. So how do I get out of your way so that you can be successful? You take the lead. So I think all of those things are very, very beneficial. I think what you're doing is, great. I love coming down here.
It's fun.
One of the things I am going to ask, are you, so you've been doing esports for how long now?
3 years.
3 years. Have you seen like improvements in like demeanors, like attitudes?
Oh, yeah.
Like, has there been like a change that you've like, I see differences in people who are engaged in these programs
Absolutely.
versus people who are
It's
just kind of here to play games?
No, it's that confidence, the social, seeing people who are like, well, hey, you're the best at this game we have. You want to be team captain? Oh, really? I didn't. And then teaching them how to lead. And even the biggest thing is, again, it's just seeing them having that place that, oh man, come in the room and going, I just bombed this test. Oh, who was it? That's the stuff I see the most. That's the most interesting and also the most beneficial, I think.
They're invested in each other's lives, not just in the game, but in other areas, other arenas.
Pretty much every Monday, almost individually, everyone who comes to that lab checks in. Hey, how's your weekend? What's going on?
Nice.
Almost all of them. If I go in there, hey, blah, blah, blah. How is, this? How's your mom doing or whatever?
So they are building actual, genuine connections and relationships. And I think that is important. And I got to go back to that first tournament I did, when and I can't believe I let them talk me into it. I'm glad they did. Because I think I ended up being here till like midnight. But they were all social. Even if they weren't playing, they were all socializing. They were, walking around, talking to people. So it was very much a very engaging, feel to it.
Scene. It's like with rock and roll music. It's like there's the music and the scene around the music.
Yeah.
And the scene around the music is just as important.
Yes.
People like the band's on stage. You hang out in a show, you're with the people. So that's that's what it's all about. Same thing with the esports life. You're there for the scene.
Awesome. Well, great stuff. I appreciate all the things you're doing. I look forward to seeing all of it grow and see how it develops. Fingers crossed. Because I'd even say too is like you're even doing things in the community with young kids, like in the summer.
Yeah,
rock camp bands. So you're not just investing in the students we have now. You're building connections and relationships with future students that will eventually come out and engage with us.
Yeah, I'm building a farm system for esports and music, basically. So in a perfect world, say for like music production, by the time they get to us, they know it all.
Yeah.
And they can spend their 2 years being creative and exploring.
Instead of building the skills, they can apply the skills.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think starting early, and I think too is that even that piece of going out, in regards to like confidence, going out and saying, you know what, you may only be 8 or 9 right now or 10, but you have talent, and we want to be involved in your process. We want to be involved in helping you develop your skills, and you're part of the community, and we're a community college, and we're here to help you. And I just think the confidence that could build, like, coming into a second grade class, and be like, hey, who wants to go learn how to be a rock star?
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
It is a joy and a pleasure just to be able to go, wait, you're really good. Have you thought about blah, blah, or you're really good. You're good enough to get a scholarship. Wait, what? It is the most rewarding part of this job.
Yeah, I love seeing. Sometimes I come to camp. I think this coming year, Eleanor will be old enough maybe to come. But the college for kids stuff. I mean, the stuff that what we do for the younger generation. The elementary age kids bring just cool stuff. Just cool stuff all around.
Well, kids who come to camps here, I guess the stats are crazy about them coming here for college.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but again, it's they feel comfortable going because it's a hard going to a new school, going to college is a hard jump for people, and going somewhere is sure a lot easier.
Or going somewhere you know someone.
Yeah, it's like
To me, that is planting seeds early, man. So excellent.
Cool.
Well,
Appreciate it.
Guido, thank you for coming out. I hope you enjoyed the coffee, and hopefully you come back and as a guest on the show again. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you had a great time. And we will see you next time with Coffee and Conversation and Dr. Wade.